Well, first, if you could share a little bit about Brother Bryan Mission and really what the mission of Brother Bryan Mission is.
Yeah, Brother Bryan Mission is the oldest mission in Birmingham. James Alexander Bryan came to Birmingham in 1889 to be the pastor of Third Presbyterian Church. And he was such an influential member of Birmingham society to the homeless and the people on the street, as well as the pastor. He became known as the chaplain of Birmingham. But the year before he died, he asked a group of businessmen if they would provide a place for people to come off the street, that they could get a meal, a shower, and learn about Jesus. So in 1940, they formed the Brother Bryan Community Center, and it incorporated in Valentine's Day on 1941. So for 71 of its 83 years, we addressed the needs of the homeless, food, clothes, and shelter. But in 2011, the board decided that they wanted to try to address the causes of homelessness. They would like to intervene in a homeless person's experience that would get them off the street on a lasting way. And so they asked a gentleman to come out of retirement that had run a mission for over 20 years on the West Coast, who had moved back to Birmingham to retire. And so he helped start the New Life Fellowship program, which is the heart of what we do. It's a 9-month residential recovery and job readiness program that emphasizes the need to come to Christ for the healing of one's soul, and then to learn the discipline required to live as a disciple of Jesus Christ going forward. So that's our ultimate goal for every client. We want every client to leave free of addiction, with stable housing and employment, and with healthy relationships with God, their family, and others. And so that's what we try to do with every client. We had for years had 64 beds when I came in 2013. And so in making some changes, we were able to build that up to 76 beds, but it still wasn't meeting the demand of the people that were wanting our help. And so this building became available, and we were hesitant because it would require so much work to bring it up to what we wanted it to be. But our board accepted the challenge, and the Lord has provided so that we have been able to add 28 beds and some wonderful offices, including the conference center conference room that we're in this morning. And so we're able to offer 28 additional beds. That brings our total to 104. And we're grateful. And the wonderful thing is it's all paid for.
That is wonderful to hear. And that is because of people being willing to donate?
Very much. We don't receive any government aid, or we're not a United Way program. The Lord laid on the heart of many donors, and some that gave just $1, and some that gave a lot of dollars. And we were grateful for each one. When the widow gives her mites, we're grateful for that. And we're grateful for those that give a lot of mites.
Right.
But we just are grateful. And we had an open house Sunday, and there was a lot of joy for people to see what their investment had been used for.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, we had a dedication service. And I asked one of the gentlemen who's a resident in this building to share what had taken place in his life. And he had come to Christ in our New Life Fellowship program, and since being in the Exodus program, his uncle had been diagnosed with cancer. Mm-hmm. And so he went down to visit his uncle in Shelby County, and he led his uncle to the Lord. So that his uncle said, "I love you." And so his uncle did pass, and they asked the gentleman with us to do the ceremony. And so he went down to do the ceremony, and his aunt said she wanted to be where his uncle was. So she came to know Christ.
Wow.
And so this gentleman is not your preacher. He's not, I'm going to say, eloquent in words, but his testimony is such, is a living example of what Christ can do in the life of someone who comes here and other places. But it's a sort of a desired goal for us, is to see our men come to Christ, learn to live under his lordship, and then go back to their families, telling them of what's taken place and being the instrument that God uses to help their family.
Absolutely.
And his dad told him the other day, he hugged him, he said, I love you, son. And our gentleman said, my dad hadn't told me that in years. He doesn't actually remember the last time his dad said it. So
wow.
He's having an impact. And
Absolutely.
we're grateful to be a part.
Absolutely. Well, so you've been able to expand your space,
Yeah.
and be able to help more men. But then there's ongoing expenses to be able to do that, right? So you're counting on donors in that aspect as well.
Yes, when you increase, I think one of our board members said 30%. We increase our budgetary requirements because we feed, clothe, and house our men 24 hours a day, of course. They come to us really broken and homeless. Drugs and alcohol have devastated their lives, so they don't have the material things that you and I take for granted. So we have a clothes closet that provides them clothes. We feed them 3 meals a day, and most of that is through donations. We do participate with the community food bank, and they make available to organizations like ours food at a very discounted price that we can buy and buy in bulk and be able to feed our folks. And the normal weight gain is 30 pounds.
Wow.
From when they come to when they get to start work. It's a very quick period of time that they gain an average of 30 pounds. It's the 30-pound Brother Bryan bulge. And it's only because drugs and alcohol, they don't put a priority on eating healthy or eating right, or eating at all. Drugs and alcohol consume their attention so much that they're looking just to get enough money for the next fix. They're not looking for the money for the next meal.
Right.
And so when they start eating regular again, it shows.
Talk a little bit about your day room that you have here in the new facility.
We haven't started that ministry, but we incorporated into the building a day room. For the people that are living on the street, they have a difficult time finding a place that they can feel safe. People will notice encampments. People that are living on the street have a place, and they'll call it their encampment. And you'll see some of those being under bridges, and you'll see places where they feel like they can be safe. There's wooded areas along interstates that people just don't pay attention to, but the homeless know that's a place that they can camp out and make. In between railroad tracks, there's land. And so they don't necessarily want you to know where that is because it can be disruptive to their lifestyle. And they want to maintain the residents on the street. They're not dying to get into programs for the most part because they would give up their independence. And so what we want to do is to offer them, especially in inclement weather and as we approach the winter time, that they can come in off the street, they can relax, their bags of clothes and possessions, they can set them down, they're not going to get rifled through, they're not going to be taken from them. We have shower facilities that they'll be able to take a shower. We are planning on having a washer and a dryer in our clothes closet that hopefully we can wash and dry their clothes. That's going to be a time element. And so they're going to have to trust us for several hours with their clothes, but that's going to be a possibility. And we will also provide them with clothes that they'll be able to access. And we now feed outside guests lunch 3 days a week. So they have to attend a 10-minute chapel where they'll hear someone share their testimony, what the program's done, and an invitation to join our program is given, and then they're able to eat a hot meal that's prepared. It comes at the end of our gentlemen eating lunch. And right now there's averaging about 30 people on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday is when we do that. And that's because we have the staff to oversee that at that time. On Wednesdays, we don't have the staff, and on Fridays, we don't have the staff in numbers. You have to have a presence with the homeless, lest some of their desires get carried away a little bit. So you have to have a presence that maintains the order that you want to see.
Mm-hmm. Well, one more question as far as volunteers.
Yes.
Do if people want to help in some way, obviously we've talked about the monetary, but are there roles they could play as a volunteer?
Yes, we do look for volunteers that can help us. There are always volunteers that come and help in serving food, in preparing food, in cleaning up during mealtime. Many times volunteers are able to go and sit with our men while they eat. That means the world to our men. There's a couple of books out that of people that went homeless to experience what it's like to be homeless, and they talked about how volunteers who at that time they didn't know, but how they would brighten their day because they view themselves, and I can testify about it based on the interviews and talks that I have with these guys, they view themselves as broken. And a volunteer who takes their time and their expenses and whatnot to just sit down and have a meal, they view them as normal. And that's what they want to be. They want to be viewed as normal, though they feel that they're broken. So a volunteer that sits across the table from them and just talks to them normally means the world to someone who's living on the street. So it's not so much that we're looking for people to help put food on the plate, though that's a start, that's an introduction. To then go out and sit with our men can mean the world. We have volunteers that help clean up. There's quite a bit of property now. We have 3 buildings. And in Alabama, weeds love to grow in every crack. So volunteers that help us clean up the buildings and clean up the property is also helpful. Christian mature men is a great need. We have a mentor program so that when a gentleman enters what we consider third phase, that's the one right before going back to work, we try to assign a mature Christian man to that gentleman who will help him make that transition back into the workforce. And so we do all the structure, we provide all the structure. We don't allow money to change hands. The mentor is not going to be asked for stuff. We would be the intermediary for that. But we provide the structure for them to have contact with a mentor. And we've seen tremendous results as a result of that. We had a gentleman that came to our program wanting a free meal. He was living under the bridge, and he entered our program, and he ended up being on our staff for a while. And his dad was living in the back of an abandoned garage in Locust Fork. And so the mentor helped get that gentleman to a safe place to live, and then they found out he was Alzheimer's, beginning of Alzheimer's, and he was a veteran. So they were able to get him into the veterans facility in Alexander City and then transfer up to Pale City so that the son and we would go and visit with the dad. And the dad has passed since that time, but that's what the mentor was able to do. That's not normal. If a man would volunteer as a mentor, we only ask once a month that they might have a personal contact with them, a lunch or some type of personal contact with the gentleman. But most of the time there'll be more contact because they'll develop a relationship, and it's a healthy interaction because they're at the phase in our program where there's maturity. They're not looking to use gentlemen, and it's a healthy thing. So that's a great avenue for a mature Christian man to be a volunteer with.
So what is the process to volunteer? Do you want people to call, to go to the website? What is the best way?
Best way is the email. Go through our website to the email. It comes to me, and I will direct it, feed it out to the people who handle our volunteers. Scott Jones does a fantastic job with our volunteers. Brian Keene is our program manager, and he oversees the mentor program. So those will be the people who will actually respond, but it comes to me and then I'll filter that out. And you can do that through our website, which is bbmission.com.